Hey friends, welcome to Play Dead. This is currently where we are shooting our stuff, talking about fighting, life, philosophies related to it. This is Fighting is About Fighting. Blah. Fighting is About Fighting, episode 2. And although the name has fighting in it twice, this was the first thing that we shot. And Fighting is About Fighting. Forgive me if you only like to come and talk about the technique of mixed martial arts or the combat itself or the matchups, because although fighting is in the name of this segment twice, this is about fighting for other things. This is about fighting for what you believe in, fighting for what you want, fighting for change, fighting for the kind of life that you want. And the very first thing we taped or recorded or whatever the technology is called was 8 days ago. It was Fighting is About Fighting, episode 1. And I said that I wanted to document this journey, this path from white belt, being brand new, with our own YouTube channel, trying to figure out how to get across the ideas that we wanted, all the way through the ups and the downs and the learning and the processes, the lessons and the trials and the failures and all of that, and document that. I wanted to do it because I believe in a lot of things. I believe you can get where you want if you break the challenges down into little things, take big challenges and make them a bunch of small challenges, bite-sized challenges, learn from your failures, all that. So if you only come to me for fighting and fight matchups and stuff, I really appreciate you, but I will not be offended if you bail. Because I think this segment is going to become very, very important to me over the next few years. I one day want to show my kids, when I have kids, what we did. Mark behind the camera here, Aaron, Morgan, Marc-Andre in Winnipeg, all of our friends and supporters and people, that we went and we built what we wanted, which was a world of art and fighting that starts around the beautiful art of mixed martial arts and build it out from there with no rules and no boundaries in our own way. That's what we're after. And I want to document that journey. And that's what we're doing here. I do have a lot to tell you about. Mark mentioned we were going to shoot this today. And I started thinking about it. And then I thought, you know what, I'm not going to plan anything. And I think that's going to be the plan, to have no plan every time we sit down for one of these. And I'm just going to be super honest about what we learned, what things have happened, the challenges, the failures, and everything. But it has been an amazing week. This is day 8. Our first thing, if you've been following, I got let go from Fight Network as they got rid of almost all production of fight content after 8 years. And it was terrifying. I sat in my living room. The mic was terrible. And 8 days later, it's been like 3 months. I feel like it's been 3 months of life. And I mean that in a really good way. We're tired. But we're proud. We're very proud. This is like the 11th or 12th thing that we've made in our little world, interviewing people. You know, we did another interview with Stu, who owns this place. It'll probably be up after this shortly. Keep an eye out for that. We've interviewed people, which we had no intention to do 8 days ago. Now we do that around here. We've done Asquab and Back, and we've done this, and I've had Rammer in a couple times. He's coming in again tomorrow. We're going to break down fights. That's the root of what we do. Then Aaron, my friend Aaron Verdonk, and Morgan Carlson, who are artists, we built a couple little things. You may see one today. There may be one right after this. Little art pieces that we're building based around fighting, language, ideas, art. The first one was kind of called Robin's Breakdown as kind of a tribute to doing breakdowns. The goal at some point is to have the technology together to get back to doing my beloved breakdowns. But in the meantime, we're not just going to stop. We're going to explore with accept the limits that we face, and we're going to try to make cool art. So what little upgrades? I'm happy to report this week, and this is not always going to be the case, so I appreciate that this is good news, but everything has been awesome. I mean everything. Everything. This is a lav mic that I am currently wearing. We had just garbage sound only 8 days ago. Now we have this rich lav mic. We have all kinds of other technology. We've had, 55 people on Patreon support us and become patrons of what we do, which is just, I didn't expect that. That's crazy. We got 2 or 3 black belts and a couple of world champions who have given us a lot of support. My friend Rick Smiklis was our first interview for Artists of Life. He lives his life in a very different way. He gave me a small job within his work, and I'm going to take that and use that to try to help us build this out. My friend Dr. Faisal Rahman, who is a fight doctor, you'll see him at the UFC cages, he helped us buy this equipment. People have been giving us art. They have been sharing all our stuff. 4,600 people have subscribed to our YouTube channel in a week. Brendan Schaub, Luke Thomas, a whole Elias Cepeda and his show. People have been, Sarah Kerchak at Fightland, Vice, they wrote a beautiful article. People have been so behind us. Like, I sat here, well, I wasn't even here, I was in my living room 8 days ago, and we were scared. It was scary. It's scary to take on something new. It's scary to go out into the water when you can't see the other side. We still don't see the other side. Maybe there is no other side. You know, maybe there's no other side. But you don't, and I'm quoting one of my favorite movies, but we won't save anything for the swim back regardless. You know what I mean? You can't. You can't. This is what you do. And I don't want to be, affected by or succumb to or overly embrace momentum. And I hope that you don't either. Because it ain't always going to be this good. It ain't always going to be leaps and bounds and huge jumps. But maybe most importantly of all those things, Ramdeen and I got to talk about beautiful fights, and we're going to do even more tomorrow. We got to make art around fighting and language, which is something very important to me and something Aaron and Morgan and I are really working on over the next couple of weeks. And we got to share fun and cool ideas and meet cool people. But I think the best thing for me, something I never would have predicted, was just the vitality of being around artists. First, Mark, who I'd never met the night that we shot Fighting is About Fighting. When we had talked, we knew we shared ideas. We knew that we shared a passion for fighting, and my love of sharing ideas and his love of gathering, editing, sharing, podcasting. That was natural. Aaron Verdonk, I used to play in a band with him. He's a brilliant artist. We got together and decided we were going to do something. And Morgan, who I'd never met before, but I was well aware of him and how creative he was. So just being around our crew quickly was so invigorating. I was thinking about, how do I get to talk about fights? How do I get to share these things? How do I bring people the stuff they've come to expect about fighting? How do I work with Ramdeen again? What do we got to do to get these breakdowns so I can get back to doing what I love? And so I was thinking very mechanically about execution. How do we do these things? Not even being aware that being immersed in creativity and ideas. And we try things, a few of which you'll see in the next couple of days, with Aaron and Morgan in particular. And I'll do something, and they'll go, that's cool. Well, what do you think of this? And it'll trigger some other idea that I have about fighting. And then they'll have an idea about editing and cutting and color and all these things. And so we start making art. This is art. Everything is art. I believe that, and I think that's true. But sometimes when you're thinking about what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, you don't take the time to realize how wonderful the experience could be. And what I feel really grateful for is how much in the last 8 days I've allowed myself to enjoy that and cherish it and relish in it. Stu Andrelli, Stu Dead, who here, Play Dead, this is his place. I think after the first one or the second one, maybe he saw on Facebook, I don't even ask him. He was like, hey man, if you want to come in and work, and it all just made sense. Not only did we go from my living room to a studio, it was not just, we have a place to shoot, but more importantly, I'm surrounded by art. And I'm surrounded by artists, and I'm surrounded by artistic people. There's a tattoo artist in here, and there's a recording studio downstairs, and there's a hairdressing chair right there. And they do yoga here on Tuesdays. If you are in Toronto, on Tuesday nights, they do yoga in here at Playdead. And how desperately I missed that, and without knowing it. You know, I was around creative people, but and wonderful people at Fight Network. And, you know, I just, a sidebar, I was scared and weirded out and grumpy, and really there's a bitterness undertone only a week, 10 days ago. But now I'm already starting to really appreciate what I got from working at Fight Network. I didn't just give. I got a lot. I worked with brilliant people like Pollock and Way and all George Barbosa. And I could name every single person there, young and driven and creative. But also, I got to work out all these ideas and explore all of these things and single-mindedly study the martial arts and learn lessons from it. So I'm already starting to appreciate that. But at the same time, it was a very, like I said to Sarah, it was a very non-corporate, but it was still a television network, no matter how open-minded and creative it was. And suddenly, I think the biggest takeaway, the biggest part of the journey, the biggest thrill and happiness and like life-changing shit that I feel right now is the sudden realization that there are no boundaries of any kind. Television, even when we were making stuff on the web, we made it moving over from television. Television has constructs and outlines and parameters. There are commercials and intros and outros and throws and all of this stuff that started somewhere, became the thing, then it was taught by people to the next people who got their people to do it, and it's ritualistic. It's ritual. And none of that applies here at all. It doesn't. There's no reason it should. And the reason I wanted to start, the thing that got me excited was the idea that I could talk like this. That I could, and that the fighting is about fighting, and documenting this journey was going to be one of the real joys of it. I love fighting. I love the art of fighting. I study fighting. I'm obsessed with fighting. I want to talk about every fight. I would love all these fighters. Every fight is a beautiful thing to me. All of these things are true. And I do that, and I did that, and I still do that. But the one little extra was being able to now try to be as self-aware as possible and extend back and document the path. And I used an analogy from fighting because just about everything that I talk about, everything that I think about connects to the lessons I've learned in martial arts. And 8 days ago, we were a white belt. And we understood that we were new. We understood that we didn't know anything about Patreon and, you know, YouTube channels and even uploading shit. Mark was a podcast specialist with audio, and in 8 days, we're already getting better at video. And the creativity that we've had in this place, surrounded by beautiful art all the time, and surrounded by, I don't know how I was going to say surrounded by a lack of boundaries. That's bad language. You can't be surrounded by no boundaries. So somehow we're not surrounded by anything. It's just open. That is scary. You got to realize how that can be scary. The ability to do anything is what makes a lot of people do nothing. You know what I mean? If you could do anything, you got to choose it. I have the good fortune of knowing what I love and knowing what I've dedicated my life to, and that is the study of fighting and trying to share that idea. So at least I'm in a path. I have a path. But being capable of anything is a scary deal. But I think I'm ready for it, and I think we're ready for it, and I think you guys are ready for it. So let's do it. You know, let's do it. We're going to push the boundaries as far as humanly possible about, you know, I've said this a lot over the last number of years, but the way that fighting is talked about and explored, shared, covered, presented is nonsense. It doesn't make any sense. It's just, this is how we report on sports, so this is how we'll do it with fighting. This is how people do interviews, so we'll do it like this. And they just took all this shit from either talking to pro wrestling or other sports or celebrity culture and applied it to this wonderful, beautiful, incredible art form. And this art form doesn't make any sense stuck in all that. So we're going to break all that. We're going to create art pieces. Aaron and Morgan are all ready, and they love fighting. They do. When they played music, and Aaron in particular, when he would travel, he played music with a group of guys that were different than him. And somewhere with all their differences, the one thing they got was when they watched the UFC and they watched fighting on weekends, they all could understand it and connect to it. But Aaron and Morgan are very much artists. And one of the things Aaron and I were talking about the second that this possibility came up was that not everybody who watches the martial arts watches it the same way or feels it the same way or relates to the way it's presented. And if that percentage is 5%, well, I'm your fucking guy. You know, we're your huckleberry over here. And if it's 10%, great. But I'll tell you, whatever percent it is, we're going to show other people that it's nonsense the way that we shoved it in this weird box that has to do with structures and confines and rankings and all of this weird shit. Like even the belt is in and of itself just a construct to be able to market something. The rankings are created by people who don't understand fighting, and they base it on these, you know, popularity among other things. So all of these constructs are irrelevant, but we were stuck with them, and we were stuck with covering it a certain way and presenting it a certain way and talking about it a certain way. So although I was expecting to talk to you about equipment and upgrading stuff and this studio that we have, and I was expecting to talk about, you know, how many people we, you know, reached and how we were going to pay for stuff, I'm realizing that the fascinating journey to be documented is how we're going to explore presenting this art form properly. That's what I think the journey is. Figuring out how to make enough money to pay our rent through the kindness of others and through, you know, figuring out how to make YouTube work and stuff. I don't think we give a shit about that. I'll definitely tell you when we get a new camera, and it'll be interesting. And I'll definitely tell you when we have huge setbacks. But I think the journey isn't the journey to become the best YouTuber ever, although we'd like to become very successful at this. I think the journey is to find the language, the ideas, the concepts, and the art to properly present the art of martial arts, of fighting, of the UFC, of combat, and to find the way to show it as what it is. Because myself and our crew and many others like us see this differently than the way it's presented. And it needs to be presented properly, and it isn't. And that's the journey. And I think that's what we're trying to get our black belt in. That's where, and I'll tell you, I'm more than a white belt in that. I don't know where I am, but I'm going to have a white belt mentality that this is only the beginning. And we're going to find a way to change the exposure and the consumption and the sharing of fighting. And we're going to change it from something that is a sport that you could categorize like football or hockey, or a thing that is some entertainment that's just there for drama, or we're going to change it from something that is about the way that these guys, oh man, they got our big rivalry. You know, oh my God, they really don't like each other. Who gives a shit? They're fighting. The two combatants are going to step into a cage and take their lifetime of study and training and focus and everything they've learned and everything they are in that moment and do battle. This isn't just spectacle. This isn't just a sport. This isn't about, you know, what they say at a press conference. This is about the martial arts. And we've done a piss poor job of getting that message out. So that's the journey that we're on. That's the journey that we're on from white belt, which is where we are today. Regardless of where you put me, I'm a white belt because I start here. And we are going to find the language, the concepts, the ideas, the creativity, and to really grow the way that fighting is covered and presented. And that's the journey we're on a black belt too. And that's what fighting is about. Fighting is about. Thanks for coming with me. It really fucking means a lot to me. Thank you all so much for riding with us, because it's going to be a really cool journey. Blackout.